June 10, 1963. 9 p.m. Small's Paradise nightclub. 250 people filled the restaurant. Musicians. Hustlers. Businessmen. Politicians. Everyone who mattered in Harlem. The weekend crowd was arriving. The jazz combo was warming up. Waiters moved between tables carrying trays of fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread. At table 7, in the back corner, Marcus Smooth Henderson sat alone. He was 38 years old. He wore a cream-colored suit with a burgundy tie. Diamond rings on 3 fingers. A gold watch that caught the light every time he moved his hand. He looked like a man who'd made it. Like a man who'd built something. He was about to learn what happens when you build something using money that doesn't belong to you. Bumpy Johnson walked into Small's Paradise at 8:50 p.m. He was dressed simply. No jewelry. No ostentation. Just a man in a dark suit, moving through his own kingdom like he owned every breath people took in that restaurant. The conversation shifted. Eyes tracked him. Old-timers recognized him immediately. Younger hustlers who'd only heard the stories whispered to each other. Bumpy walked straight to table 8, right next to table 7. He sat down with his back to the wall, facing the entrance. Old habit. Never sit with your back to the door. He looked at Marcus Smooth Henderson sitting alone at the adjacent table. Eat, Bumpy said quietly, pushing a plate of ribs across toward him. Marcus's hands began to shake. He couldn't hold the fork. He understood. Everyone in that restaurant understood. This was an execution with an audience. This is the story of what happens when someone you trusted completely steals from you. And why the punishment isn't death, but something far worse. Something that lasts longer. Something that costs more. Marcus Smooth Henderson came into Bumpy Johnson's world in 1947. He was 22 years old. Sharp. Quick. A hustler from 118th Street with the kind of instinct for the numbers game that only comes naturally. Bumpy noticed him. Bumpy had a gift for recognizing talent before talent recognized itself. He took Marcus under his wing. Taught him the numbers game. Showed him how to run policy banks. Introduced him to the right people. Protected him when Dutch Schultz's old crew came for revenge. When Bumpy got arrested in 1952 for narcotics conspiracy, he trusted Marcus to hold things together. To take care of the organization. To send money to his wife, Mai, every month. To maintain the structure that Bumpy had built. For 2 years, Marcus did exactly that. He proved his loyalty. He proved his competence. He proved himself to be someone Bumpy could trust with everything. Then the money stopped. The letters stopped. The communication from Bumpy stopped because Bumpy was in Alcatraz, completely cut off. And Marcus made a choice. According to court documents from the 1963 investigation, Marcus Smooth Henderson had made a deal with Vito Genovese. Marcus gave him the locations of Bumpy's policy banks. Told him which cops were on Bumpy's payroll. Revealed where the cash houses were. And in exchange, the Italians let Marcus keep 125th Street for himself. Let him run his own operation. Let him keep the money that should have gone to Bumpy's wife. Bumpy had spent 11 years in Alcatraz thinking about that betrayal. 11 years planning what came next. Bumpy walked out of Alcatraz on June 7, 1963, carrying everything he owned in a paper bag. He was 56 years old. Gray in his hair now. 11 years older. But his eyes still had that cold, calculating stillness that made strong men nervous. Bumpy didn't go home. Didn't embrace his wife. Didn't stop to rest after the 3-day train ride from San Francisco. He went straight to Junie Bird's apartment on 145th Street. Junie was waiting. 63 years old, gray-haired, but loyal to his last breath. Give me names, Bumpy said. He didn't sit down. Didn't waste time on pleasantries. Junie had a list ready. He'd spent 11 years watching. Listening. Keeping track. He rattled off 15 names. Men who'd gotten rich while Bumpy was locked away. Men who'd carved up his territory like he was never coming back. But one name made Bumpy's jaw tighten. Marcus Henderson. Smooth had been Bumpy's protege. A sharp young hustler from 118th Street that Bumpy had taken under his wing in 1947. Bumpy had taught him the numbers game, shown him how to run policy banks, introduced him to the right people, protected him. When Bumpy got arrested in 1952, he'd trusted Smooth to hold things together, take care of the organization, send money to my for 2 years. Smooth had done exactly that. Then everything stopped. And according to Junie, Smooth had made a deal with Vito Genovese. He'd given up the locations of Bumpy's policy banks, told them which cops were on Bumpy's payroll, revealed where the cash houses were. And in exchange, the Italians let Smooth keep 125th Street for himself. Where does he eat? Bumpy asked. Small's Paradise, Junie said. Every Friday night, Table 7, shows up at 9 o'clock like clockwork. Bumpy looked at his watch. It was Friday, 6 p.m. Get me a table right next to his, Bumpy said. At 8:45 p.m., Small's Paradise was filling up. The weekend crowd was arriving. Hustlers. Musicians. Working folks spending their paychecks on good food and cold beer. The three-piece jazz combo was warming up in the corner. Bumpy Johnson walked in at 8:50 p.m. He was wearing the same suit he'd worn on the train from California. A charcoal gray number that had seen better days. His shoes were scuffed. He carried no weapon that anyone could see. He looked like a ghost. Like something from Harlem's past walking into its present. The restaurant didn't go silent, but conversations shifted. Eyes tracked him as he moved through the crowd. Old-timers recognized him immediately. That's Bumpy Johnson. I thought he was dead. Man got out of Alcatraz 3 days ago. Bumpy walked straight to table 8. Junie Bird was already sitting there along with Willie Fish Jackson and Raymond Quick Lewis. 3 old-timers who'd stayed loyal. 3 men who remembered what Harlem was like when Bumpy ran it. Bumpy sat down with his back to the wall, facing the entrance. Old habit. Never sit with your back to the door. At exactly 9 p.m., Marcus Smooth Henderson walked in. Smooth was 38 now, dressed in a cream-colored suit with a burgundy tie, diamond rings on 3 fingers, a gold watch. He had 4 men with him, bodyguards who looked like they'd never missed a meal. Smooth was laughing about something, holding court, acting like he owned the place. He probably did own the place, at least he owned the protection that kept Small's Paradise operating without police raids. Smooth's crew headed for table 7. That's when Smooth saw Bumpy. He stopped mid-step. The blood drained from his face. His bodyguards noticed the change and followed his gaze. When they saw Bumpy Johnson sitting there, calm as Sunday morning, their hands moved toward their waistbands. Bumpy didn't move. Didn't react. Just looked at Smooth with those cold, empty eyes. Marcus, Bumpy said quietly. His voice carried across the restaurant. Come sit with me. It wasn't a request. Smooth's bodyguards tensed. One of them, a thick-necked enforcer named Leon, stepped forward. Mr. Henderson. Don't take meetings without. Junie Bird stood up. He was 63 and looked harmless, but the .45 automatic in his hand looked very serious. The man said sit down, Junie said softly. Suddenly, guns were everywhere. Smooth's 4 bodyguards had their hands inside their jackets. Junie had his .45. Willie Jackson produced a saw-off shotgun from under the table. Quick Lewis had a revolver pointed at Leon's chest. The restaurant froze. The jazz combo stopped playing. Waiters backed toward the kitchen. Customers dove under tables. But Bumpy Johnson didn't even blink. "Tell your boys to go home, Marcus," Bumpy said. "This conversation is between you and me." Smooth's mouth opened and closed like a fish. His hands were shaking. He looked at his bodyguards. Looked at the guns. Looked at Bumpy's calm, terrifying face. "Go," Smooth whispered to his crew. "Boss," Leon started. "I said go." The bodyguards backed toward the door, hands still on their weapons, eyes locked on Junie's .45. They didn't want to leave. But they also didn't want to die in Small's Paradise on a Friday night. When they were gone, Bumpy gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sit." Marcus Henderson sat. His entire body was trembling. Bumpy signaled a waiter. The young man approached nervously, avoiding eye contact. "Bring us a plate of ribs," Bumpy said. "The good ones. And 2 glasses of bourbon." The waiter practically ran to the kitchen. The restaurant was dead silent now. 250 people frozen in place, watching table 8 like it was a stage. Even the kitchen staff had stopped cooking. Everyone knew what was happening. Everyone understood. This was history. The food arrived. The waiter set down a full plate of ribs, still steaming, glazed with sauce. 2 glasses of bourbon. Then he disappeared. Bumpy pushed the plate toward Smooth. "Eat," he said. Smooth stared at the ribs like they were poisoned. "I'm not hungry, Bumpy." "Listen, I can explain." "Eat," Bumpy repeated. "Because this is your last meal." That's when Smooth understood. This wasn't a negotiation. This wasn't a conversation. This was an execution with an audience. "Bumpy, please," Smooth's voice cracked. "I had to survive. You were gone. The Italians were taking everything. I made a deal to save the organization." "You made a deal to save yourself," Bumpy said quietly. "You gave them my policy banks. My collectors. My roots. You told Genovese everything. And then you kept the money that should have gone to my wife." Tears were running down Smooth's face now. "I was going to make it right. I swear I was waiting for you to come home. I've been home for 3 days, Marcus. You didn't come see me. Didn't send word. Didn't send money to make up for 11 years of nothing." Bumpy leaned forward. "You thought I was never coming back. Thought you'd gotten away with it. Please, Bumpy. I'll give it all back. The money. The territory. Everything. I don't want it back from you," Bumpy said. "I'm taking it back from you. There's a difference." Bumpy's hand moved to his waistband. But Bumpy didn't pull a gun. He pulled out a straight razor. The same razor he'd carried since 1935. The same one that had convinced Lucky Luciano to let Bumpy operate independently. The same blade that had taught more than one man the lesson that Bumpy was about to teach now. Bumpy unfolded the razor slowly. The steel caught the light. "You know what the Romans used to do to traitors?" Bumpy asked conversationally. "They'd make them eat their last meal. Then they'd execute them in public. Let everyone see what happens when you betray your emperor." Smooth was hyperventilating now. Eyes locked on the razor. "I'm not a Roman emperor," Bumpy continued. "But I am Harlem. And everyone in this restaurant needs to understand something." He raised his voice so every person in Small's Paradise could hear. "When I went to Alcatraz, some of you forgot who built this. Forgot whose streets these are. Forgot that respect isn't something you take, it's something you earn." He looked directly at Smooth. Marcus Henderson forgot. So now Marcus Henderson is going to help me remind everyone. Bumpy stood up. Smooth tried to bolt. But Junie was behind him in a second, gun pressed against his spine. Stand up, Bumpy ordered. Smooth stood. Legs shaking so badly he could barely support himself. Bumpy walked around the table until he was face to face with the man who'd betrayed him. Then, with the entire restaurant watching, Bumpy raised the razor to Smooth's face. Not to kill. To mark. In one quick motion, Bumpy cut a thin line across Smooth's left cheek. Not deep. Just enough to scar. Just enough to make sure every person in Harlem would know Marcus Henderson as the man who betrayed Bumpy Johnson. Smooth screamed. Blood ran down his face, staining his cream-colored suit. That's so you remember, Bumpy said quietly. Every time you look in a mirror, you'll see that scar. And every person who sees you will know what you did. You've got 24 hours to leave Harlem, Bumpy said. Take whatever you can carry. Leave the rest. If I see you after tomorrow night, I won't be this generous. He turned to address the entire restaurant. The rest of you, Bumpy Johnson is back. The rules are the same as they always were. Pay what you owe. Keep your word. Protect your people. Anyone who wants to test me, you know where to find me. Bumpy Johnson walked out of Small's Paradise at 9:47 p.m. on June 10, 1963. He left Marcus Henderson bleeding at table 7. Left 250 witnesses who would spread the story across Harlem by morning. By sunrise, every hustler, policy banker, and street soldier in Harlem knew the king was back. Marcus Smooth Henderson was on a bus to Philadelphia by noon. He never returned. That scar was his brand. A permanent reminder of what happens when you betray Bumpy Johnson. Within 72 hours, 3 other men who'd carved up Bumpy's territory quietly disappeared from Harlem. Not killed. Just gone. Relocated with a clear understanding, stay away or join Smooth. The Genovese family, who'd moved into Harlem while Bumpy was locked up, sent a captain to negotiate. The meeting lasted 4 minutes. Bumpy's terms were simple. You've got 2 weeks to pull out of Harlem. Everything north of 110th Street is mine again. Non-negotiable. The Italians left without arguing. They'd lost 3 soldiers trying to hold Bumpy's old territory in the past week. The cost of fighting him was higher than the profit. Within 6 months, every piece of Bumpy's empire was back under his control. Not through war, not through bloodshed, but through fear, respect, and calculated power. The night at Small's Paradise became Harlem legend. Old-timers still talk about it. About how Bumpy didn't need an army. Didn't need speeches. He walked into a restaurant, faced his betrayer, and with 1 razor and 250 witnesses, reminded everyone who really ran Harlem. You can lock a man up for 11 years. You can steal his money. Take his territory. Turn his people against him. But you can't take his throne. Not if he's a real king. Bumpy Johnson proved something that night. Power isn't about who has the most guns. It's about who commands the most respect. And respect isn't given. It's earned through loyalty, intelligence, and the will to do what others won't when justice demands it. Within weeks, the story had spread through every criminal organization in New York. Within months, it had reached every major city in the country. The message was unmistakable: if you betrayed Bumpy Johnson, there was nowhere to hide. And when he found you, he wouldn't kill you. He would mark you. He would make sure everyone knew what you had done. Many people later asked why Bumpy chose to scar Marcus Smooth Henderson instead of killing him. The answer revealed something fundamental about how power actually works. If Bumpy had killed Smooth, it would have been just another body. Another crime. Another problem that could draw attention from police or create complications inside the system. Death would have ended the story quickly. But by marking Smooth, by giving him a scar he would carry for the rest of his life, Bumpy turned the punishment into something permanent. The scar became the evidence. The scar became the warning. The scar became the story. It was visible. Every time Smooth looked in the mirror, he saw it. Every time he met someone new, questions followed. Every explanation forced him to relive the moment he betrayed the man who trusted him. In many ways, that was worse than death. Death is final. It ends suffering. A scar never ends. It follows you. It identifies you. It makes your mistake part of your identity. That was why Bumpy chose to mark instead of kill. Because marking lasts longer than killing. Because a scar tells a story that the person carrying it has to live with every single day. What happened to Smooth revealed how Bumpy maintained control over Harlem without constant violence. The system wasn't built on fear alone, it was psychological. Bumpy understood something most criminals never do: people are more afraid of permanent identification with failure than they are of death. They fear becoming a living example of what not to do. They fear being remembered for the wrong reason. So Bumpy didn't need to kill everyone who betrayed him. He needed to mark one man and let that mark speak to thousands. He needed people to understand that crossing him wouldn't end quickly, it would last forever. If you stole from Bumpy, he would know. If you betrayed Bumpy, he would mark you. And you would carry that mark for the rest of your life. The incident at Small's Paradise sent a clear message to everyone in Harlem, from street soldiers to policy runners. Breaking the code didn't just bring violence. It brought permanent exposure. Everyone would know what you had done. And you would never escape it. That psychological weight was more effective than any threat. The cost of betrayal wasn't measured in pain or time, it was measured in years of living with the consequence. After June 10, 1963, Bumpy's control over Harlem was absolute. Not because he eliminated his enemies, but because he demonstrated consequences that were visible, permanent, and unavoidable. No one challenged him seriously again. Within months, everyone understood the rules: pay what you owe, keep your word, protect your people, and never steal from Bumpy Johnson. The lesson spread beyond Harlem. Other crime leaders noticed what Bumpy had done. Not necessarily the scar itself, but the principle behind it: make punishment personal, permanent, and impossible to forget. The story of Marcus Smooth Henderson revealed how punishment works in systems outside the law. Legal punishment is distant and temporary. Street punishment is personal and lasting. Bumpy understood that the most effective punishment isn't the one that ends suffering, but the one that turns suffering into identity. Smooth left Harlem the next day and spent the rest of his life trying to disappear. But stories follow people. Every time someone saw the scar, the story returned. In 1995, Marcus Smooth Henderson died. The obituary said nothing about Harlem, Bumpy Johnson, or the mark that defined his life. But those who knew understood. That was Bumpy Johnson's final punishment: not death, but memory. Not pain, but permanent identification. Not a quick end, but a lifetime consequence of one betrayal. And that understanding of power, how to make consequences last longer than violence, was what made Bumpy Johnson legendary. If you steal from Bumpy, Bumpy will know. If you betray Bumpy, Bumpy will mark you. And you'll carry that mark for the rest of your life. That's why the story of Bumpy and Smooth mattered. Not because of the violence, but because of what it revealed about how punishment actually works when it comes from someone with real power and real understanding of what power means.